Chosen one, this message didn't find you by accident. God led you here for a reason. For a long time, people overlooked you, underestimated you, and mocked your vision. They laughed when you spoke about where you were headed, because they couldn't see what God showed you in private. You tried to explain, but they couldn't comprehend it. They thought your faith was foolish, your dreams unrealistic, and your confidence delusional. But what they didn't realize was that you weren't speaking from pride. You were speaking from prophecy. You were declaring what heaven had already written about your life, long before they even knew your name. And now the very thing they doubted is unfolding right before their eyes. Before we dive deep, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because this message isn't just content. It's a divine confirmation for the chosen ones. And a heartfelt thank you to everyone who's been supporting through Super Thanks. God bless you richly. Your love, your presence, and your faithfulness do not go unnoticed. To all of you who continually watch, listen, and align, I'm truly grateful. If your spirit feels this frequency, type 77 in the comments right now. That number isn't random. It's a sacred signal to the Most High and the universe that you're ready to walk boldly into the prophecy that's now being fulfilled in your life. Ready to see what they once laughed at finally come to pass. Not everyone will make it to the end of this message. Only the truly chosen, those who stay, will gain revelation, divine clarity, and spiritual understanding about why God had to let them laugh first before letting you rise. You're about to see why their mockery was never meant to stop you. It was meant to mark you. This isn't just another message. It's a living prophecy, a spiritual confirmation that what God spoke over your life is already happening. Watch this again whenever your spirit leads you, because each time another piece of divine truth will rise to the surface. You were the prophecy they laughed at, until it came true. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. You were spoken of before you were seen. Chosen one, before you ever took your first breath, heaven already knew your name. You were not just born, you were sent. There was a divine conversation about you long before you entered this world. The Most High whispered your purpose into existence, aligning the stars, timing, and circumstances for your arrival. Your life was prophesied, not improvised. Every detail, every delay, every detour was part of a master plan far greater than you could comprehend. When you came into this world, you didn't fit in because you weren't meant to. You were marked even before you were noticed. The calling on your life was too ancient for the average eye to recognize. People around you couldn't explain it, but they could feel something different about you. An energy, a presence, a light that couldn't be contained. You weren't just another soul passing through time. You were a prophecy in human form, walking toward its fulfillment. That's why you've always been misunderstood. You've been overlooked, rejected, even ridiculed. But it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Heaven had to hide you in plain sight. God needed you unseen while He was still shaping your spirit for the stage He's bringing you to. You've carried an unseen promise inside of you, a seed planted in eternity now pushing through time. You see, the laughter, the disbelief, and the doubt from others were never really about you. It was about what you represented. You carried something too divine for them to discern. Your presence disturbed their comfort because your destiny contradicted their perception. They laughed at you, not realizing they were mocking prophecy. They dismissed your dreams, unaware that heaven had already signed off on them. Since childhood, you've carried that strange sense of knowing, a quiet voice that told you your life wouldn't be ordinary. You didn't have the words for it, but your spirit did. You felt different, thought different, dreamed different. You couldn't settle for mediocrity even when you tried. That inner restlessness wasn't confusion. It was the echo of your calling. It was your soul remembering who you were before you forgot. Chosen one, never forget this truth. You were spoken of before you were seen. Every trial you endured was already written into your prophecy. Every setback was secretly an alignment. Every season of silence was divine incubation. The people who walked away couldn't stay because they weren't part of the original conversation heaven had about your life. You are not behind. You're on schedule. You are not forgotten. You are hidden until appointed. The same mouths that doubted you will one day declare what heaven already decreed. You are the prophecy they laughed at, now walking in fulfillment. Chapter 2. They mocked what they couldn't comprehend. Chosen one, when you started speaking about your purpose, when you began to share the visions and revelations God placed in your heart, they laughed. They didn't just laugh at your words. They laughed at your faith. You were speaking from a realm they couldn't see, and because they couldn't understand it, they tried to ridicule it. But you must understand this truth. People always mock what their minds can't comprehend and what their spirits aren't mature enough to discern. You were talking in faith, but they were listening in fear. You were describing what God showed you in the spirit, but they were judging based on what they saw in the physical. You were walking by divine vision, but they were limited by human logic. They couldn't comprehend that God would choose you, someone they thought they knew, to do something extraordinary. They couldn't reconcile your current situation with your future revelation. And because it didn't make sense to them, they mocked you to protect their pride. Chosen one, when God gives you a word, it often won't make sense to anyone else. You'll sound delusional to those who haven't seen what you've seen. You'll sound arrogant to those who've settled for average. You'll sound unrealistic to those who stopped believing a long time ago. But that's the cost of carrying prophecy. You must be willing to look foolish before you look fulfilled. They couldn't measure the favor on your life, so they tried to measure your worth by your circumstances. They couldn't sense the anointing within you, so they judged you by what you lacked. They labeled you crazy, obsessed, too spiritual, not realizing that you were simply ahead of your time. But mockery, chosen one, is often confirmation. It's proof that what's inside you threatens what's around you. When your faith makes people uncomfortable, that's how you know it's powerful. Remember Noah. He built an ark in the middle of a drought, following instructions that made no earthly sense. They called him a fool until the first drop of rain hit the ground. Remember Joseph? He shared his dream, and his own brothers despised him for it. They tried to bury him, not knowing that the dream they laughed at would one day feed them. Remember David when he stepped onto the battlefield to face Goliath? Even his own people doubted him. But what they mocked as weakness was actually divine strategy. You see, every time God reveals a prophecy, mockery comes before manifestation. Laughter always comes before fulfillment. The same people who ridicule your vision will one day reference it as proof that God is real. You are walking in the same lineage of misunderstood greatness that every true chosen one has walked before you. The reason they mocked you wasn't because they hated you. It's because your faith exposed their fear. Your boldness reminded them of everything they stopped believing for. Your light revealed their shadow. You became a mirror, showing them the potential they buried under doubt. So when they laugh, don't be discouraged. Be reminded. Be reminded that you're on schedule. Be reminded that heaven's promises don't require human validation. Be reminded that mockery is the sound of the old world trembling as your new one begins. Chosen one, keep building your ark. Keep dreaming your dream. Keep standing before your Goliath, because soon the same mouths that mocked you will testify of the prophecy they once denied. The rain is coming. The dream will unfold. The giant will fall, and when it does, the laughter will stop, because the prophecy will have finally spoken for itself. Chapter 3. God kept you hidden until the time was right, chosen one. What you went through wasn't rejection. It was divine protection. The prophecy attached to your life was too precious to be exposed too early. That's why God kept you hidden, while others were being celebrated. That's why He pulled you into isolation when you longed for recognition. You thought you were being overlooked, but heaven was actually overshadowing you. You were being preserved for a specific season, a divine unveiling that could only happen once you were fully prepared. The prophecy had to be protected, and so did you. There were people who would have tried to manipulate your gift, distort your purpose, or drain your spirit if God had allowed them close too soon. So instead of revealing you, He concealed you. He planted you deep where no one could see you, not because you weren't valuable, but because you were sacred. The seed of your calling needed quiet soil. Every hidden season was heaven's greenhouse, where you could grow without distraction, mature without interference, and strengthen your roots before your revelation. Chosen one, understand this. Visibility without preparation leads to vulnerability. God couldn't let you be seen before you were stable. If He had revealed your greatness prematurely, the same people who mocked your potential would have tried to destroy your progress. So He hid you. He kept you off certain stages, out of certain circles and away from certain people, not to deprive you but to develop you. While others were being celebrated, you were being cultivated. While they were shining, you were sharpening. While they were seen, you were being strengthened in secret. It wasn't easy. You cried. You questioned. You wondered why everyone else seemed to be moving ahead. But little did you know your delay was divine strategy. You were not forgotten. You were being forged. Every season of silence was sacred training. God was teaching you how to hear His voice without the noise of the crowd. He was developing discernment, resilience, and wisdom inside you. You learned to stand alone, to trust Him when no one understood you, to walk by faith when there was no applause. And now those private lessons are becoming your public power. Chosen one, the world saw you as missing, but heaven saw you as maturing. The people who once said, "Where did they go?" are about to say, "Where did they come from?" Because when God hides someone, He's never just delaying them, He's designing them. He's aligning every piece, every person, and every opportunity for the perfect moment of unveiling. They laughed while you were silent, not realizing that silence is where God speaks the loudest. They mistook your absence for insignificance, not realizing that hidden things hold the most value. Diamonds form in darkness. Roots grow underground. Prophecies mature in obscurity. When your season of hiding ends, it won't take long for everything to shift. The same people who mocked your stillness will be speechless at your emergence. The same ones who doubted your purpose will witness your power. Because when the prophecy begins to unfold, God will make it known it wasn't coincidence. It wasn't luck. And it wasn't human connection. It was divine orchestration. So, chosen one, don't curse your hidden seasons. Don't despise the quiet places. You're not behind. You're being refined. When the time is right, the very hand that hid you will reveal you, and every delay will make sense. What was once concealed will soon be celebrated. You were hidden not because you were unworthy, but because you were destined for something worth waiting for. Chapter 4. When the prophecy began to speak for itself, chosen one, there comes a sacred moment in every divine story when silence becomes your greatest testimony, when you no longer need to explain, defend, or prove anything to anyone. The time comes when the prophecy you carried in faith begins to manifest. In fact, the same mouths that once laughed at your belief are now whispering about your breakthrough. The same eyes that rolled at your dreams are now watching them unfold. What was once mocked in private is now being witnessed in public, and there's no denying that the hand of God has been upon your life all along. You see, God doesn't argue with doubters. He demonstrates. He doesn't waste time trying to convince unbelievers. He simply lets His plan play out. Every moment of your pain, every tear, every lonely season, it was all part of the setup. God was quietly preparing your stage while your enemies were loudly questioning your faith. And now that same stage is where His power will be displayed through you. The prophecy has begun to speak for itself. You don't have to post about it, defend it, or make anyone understand it. The fruit of your faith has started to bloom, and fruit speaks louder than words ever could. When God begins to elevate you, No rumor, lie, or opinion can silence the evidence of His glory. The people who once called you delusional will have no choice but to call you divine. Chosen one, they thought you were just talking. They heard your declarations, your affirmations, your prayers, and they laughed because they couldn't see the process. They mistook your prophecy for pride, your conviction for craziness, your faith for foolishness. But what they didn't realize was that you weren't describing fantasy, you were describing the future. You weren't just talking, you were foretelling, and now the very words they mocked are becoming the reality they can't deny. This is the moment when your life becomes a living sermon. You won't have to say, "I told you so," because your elevation will say it for you. You won't need to point out the change, because the transformation will be too evident to ignore. The glory that surrounds you now is heaven's response to years of ridicule. Every delay was God's way of perfecting the timing. And now the prophecy is walking, breathing, and shining through your life. Remember, when God begins to reveal His promises, He does it in a way that leaves no room for coincidence. He blesses you in front of the very people who said you'd never make it. He opens doors that no one can close. He prepares a table in the presence of those who underestimated you. And when you sit at that table, no one will ask how you got there. They'll know this is your divine demonstration season. You don't have to strive for validation or chase approval. The evidence of God's favor on your life is undeniable. You have become the proof that prophecy is real, that faith produces fruit, and that what God speaks cannot return void. So rest in this truth. Chosen one, the prophecy no longer needs your voice. It has found its own. What once was spoken in secrecy is now shouting through your success. What once was hidden in faith is now revealed in fulfillment. The promise that once sounded impossible now stands undeniable. The prophecy has spoken, and its words are written all over your life. Chapter 5. Their laughter was prophecy in disguise. Chosen one, what if I told you that the laughter you heard, the mockery, the whispers, the jokes at your expense was never random? What if I told you that their laughter was actually prophecy in disguise? You see, every word of doubt they spoke was unknowingly confirming what heaven had already decreed. Every insult, every smirk, every moment of disbelief, they were unknowingly fulfilling the script written about you before you were even born. God, in His divine wisdom, allowed their laughter because it would one day serve as the backdrop to your elevation. He allowed them to underestimate you so that when the promise manifested, it would be clear that it was His doing, not yours. Their mockery became a stage, and your breakthrough became the performance. They laughed while you were planting seeds, but soon they'll weep when they see your harvest. Every time they said you couldn't do it, heaven leaned in and whispered, "Watch this." Every time they tried to humiliate you, God took note and said, "I'll use that." The ridicule they gave you wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It pushed you deeper into your calling. It made you pray harder, work smarter, and trust God even when it hurt. Their disbelief became your discipline. Their laughter became your motivation. Their words became wind behind your wings. Chosen one, you need to understand something powerful. The enemy never mocks what isn't a threat. If they laughed at you, it's because they sensed something divine on your life long before you could see it yourself. The darkness recognized your light before you even knew how bright you'd shine. That's why people targeted you, gossiped about you, and doubted your potential. It wasn't because they didn't see it. It was because they did. Their laughter was prophecy in disguise because God was using it to build your story. If everyone had believed in you, your faith would have been weak. If everyone had supported you, you wouldn't have learned how to stand alone. It was the rejection that gave you resilience. It was the mockery that gave you momentum. It was the humiliation that taught you humility. Every moment of pain was secretly building the foundation for your power. So don't hold bitterness in your heart for those who laughed. Forgive them. because they played their role perfectly. Without their disbelief, your testimony wouldn't be as impactful. Without their mockery, your manifestation wouldn't be as magnificent. Their laughter was the sound of heaven setting the stage for your revelation. They thought they were breaking you down, but they were really helping build you up. When your elevation happens, and it will silence every mocking voice. They'll have no choice but to say, "It had to be God," because the shift will be too sudden, too divine, too undeniable to explain any other way. The same people who once pointed fingers will now point to heaven, saying, "Surely the Lord was with them." Chosen one, your glow-up isn't just for you, it's for their awakening. Your success is the sermon they'll never forget. Your story is the proof that what God starts, He finishes. So let them laugh. Let them gossip. Let them underestimate you. Because every sound of mockery today is a melody of prophecy in the making. Soon they'll realize they weren't laughing at your failure. They were unknowingly applauding your future. God used their disbelief as the stage for His glory. Their laughter didn't stop your destiny, it confirmed it. Chapter 6. Now the tables have turned. Now look at you, chosen one. The same ones who counted you out are suddenly counting your wins. The ones who said you're wasting your time are now asking for advice. The very people who once laughed behind your back are now quietly studying your steps. It's not that they suddenly believe in you. It's that the evidence of God's favor on your life can no longer be denied. The prophecy they mocked has matured, and now the tables have turned. You didn't have to force it, argue for it, or prove yourself. You just kept walking, kept praying, kept building. While they were busy talking, you were busy transforming. While they were mocking your faith, you were mastering your focus. You didn't clap back, you came back. You didn't chase validation, you stayed obedient. And because you stayed consistent in seasons of contradiction, God positioned you for a reversal that no one saw coming. That's the beauty of prophecy. It doesn't need applause, it just needs time. God never forgets a promise, and He never wastes a process. What looked like delay was actually divine setup. What felt like rejection was really redirection. You thought you were being left behind, but you were being preserved for a bigger moment. And now that moment has arrived. The same ones who dismissed you are realizing that they were never laughing at you. They were laughing at what God was doing through you. Chosen one, your elevation didn't happen by accident. It was the direct result of your endurance. You didn't quit when it was hard. You didn't give up when you were overlooked. You didn't stop believing even when everything around you screamed impossible. While they doubted you, you doubled down in faith. While they turned away, you turned inward, to prayer, to purpose, to presence. That's why God is blessing you publicly, because you honored Him privately. Now the tables have turned. And it's not out of revenge, it's out of revelation. You see, God doesn't lift you up to embarrass others. He lifts you up to establish His glory. Your success isn't payback, it's proof. You're not shining to prove a point. You're shining because the point has already been proven. They laughed when you had nothing, but now they're witnessing what faith and favor can do. You became the living demonstration that obedience always outlasts opposition. The same mouths that said you'd never make it now speak your name with respect. The same eyes that once rolled now look up in awe. And deep down they know it was never luck. It was the Lord. Your consistency became your vindication. Your humility became your strength. Your silence became your strategy. And now, without trying, you've become the testimony that God never misses His mark. Chosen one, this is your divine reversal. This is what it looks like when heaven steps into your story. Every closed door, every betrayal, every lonely night, it all added up to this moment. You didn't just survive, you transcended. You didn't just wait, you evolved. So walk boldly in this season, not with arrogance, but with awareness. You don't need to gloat, you just need to glow. Because those who once laughed are now learning that when God chooses someone, there's no stopping their rise. Chapter 7. The prophecy is still unfolding, chosen one. As much as they've seen, they still haven't seen the full picture. What God has done so far in your life is just the introduction. You're only at the beginning of what heaven is about to reveal through you. The prophecy that began in silence, when no one believed, when no one understood, is still unfolding piece by piece according to divine timing. You are living proof that God never speaks without purpose. Every word He released over your life was pregnant with destiny. And now those promises are giving birth before the eyes of those who once doubted you. But this is only the first wave. The world thinks they've seen your breakthrough, but heaven knows you've only scratched the surface of what's coming. True prophecy doesn't expire, it evolves. It grows as you grow. It matures as you mature. You are not just the fulfillment of a promise, you are a continuation of it. What started with you will ripple into generations you'll never meet. You're not just living for yourself, you're fulfilling something ancient and sacred. The same people who laughed will soon listen. What they once mocked will one day minister to them. When God fulfills a prophecy, He doesn't just prove something to you, He proves something through you. You are a walking revelation that when God speaks a word, it cannot return void. Now, chosen one, the prophecy is speaking loudly. It's in your glow, your peace, your confidence, your anointing. You've seen too much to doubt again. You've walked through too much fire to fear the flame. You now understand that every heartbreak and delay was divine choreography. Stand tall, chosen one. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. The evidence is already visible. The prophecy has spoken and it came true. Every loss became leverage. Every storm became strategy.